Hello, everybody. This is Maniac for Bricks, and I am trying to continue the ManiAsk Q&A series. With a whole bunch of adjustments going on, I couldn't get all those videos recorded before, and I figured, you know what? Now we got a better setup. We got a better microphone, so I might as well just re-record them. I will try to keep consistent with the answers from before. These are not intended to be super long, and they're usually not intended to be live. At least in this point, I'm just going to test things out since we are using a new microphone. While I have been testing it for the past couple of days, I have not tested it on YouTube yet, so we'll see how everything goes. And meanwhile, I'm just going to answer one question within this video. Originally, I had planned to do 3 questions per video, but this one is a little more thought-provoking. So I thought, might as well just cover it all in just one question for this video, get as much out there as possible, and let me know if anything needs to be adjusted as far as the audio goes. I do have a mixer right in front of me, and I'm still experimenting with it, still working things out. So if it's a little too bassy or somehow off in some way, I will make the appropriate adjustments, like this, where it's a little bit more distant. Now it sounds like I'm in your earworm. Construction production, welcome to the brief video stream testing 1, 2, 3. All right, this question for today is from Mr. Hinkle Draws, and most of these questions actually came out a couple months ago. Take me some while to get around to them, but I actually do like this setup right now. If you have any other questions, leave them down in the comments below. I will answer them as best as I can at some later time, but for this video, we'll be answering just one question from Mr. Hinkle Draws. And he says that it's time for a deep thinking question. Ask Lego Lord Joey, what is one thing you believe the Lego company has gotten wrong and how you would have fixed it? Could be anything. Product, marketing, events, retail, etc. Now, even though this question was from an announcement a couple months ago, I have tried answering all different questions for the Q&A. This one had me thinking hard for a long time. I could not figure out a good answer to come up with this, and I have some pieces here that I can use to a decent answer. There are things that I've, studying the way that Lego has operated as a brand, as a toy company, seeing how their history has been, the range of products that they put out, the fluctuations here and there. I'd say one of the things that they've had trouble with in the past, and to a degree still have trouble with, is adapting to the average consumer. To make it something that's a fun, valuable product, it's still good quality, and offers a lot of creativity, but also doesn't have a huge price tag to it. I think that's something that's come up a lot lately when it comes to different Lego sets, Lego themes. Even ones that are created in-house have a more premium price to them, even though there's no license tax to it, as we all call it. It's something that doesn't identify with the consumer very well. It's the kind of thing that Lego is a big brand. We all know this. It's the Rolls Royce of its class, of a building toy. Similar things would be like K'NEX, Lincoln Logs, all different kinds of building block toys, whether or not plastic, are, for lack of a better term, primitive or somehow don't grab as much attention compared to Lego. It is something that's fun, adaptable, colorful, has been carrying over generations, and they know it, and they will adapt it. But to a large degree, I would say in the past probably 6 years or so, they really honed in on the higher market of things. And yes, you are allowed to ask a question. I just may not cover it in this video itself, just doing a live testing, but still trying to do a video here. But I will write it down and I will answer it sometime later. When the next one will be, to be determined. because I got a lot on my schedule right now. So basically, what I think that Lego needs to do for adapting their marketing, they clearly have a lot of ads. It's pretty easy to find that Lego is a brand. Lego is about building. Lego offers creativity. You can use these parts in all different ways. And it's really good stuff. I mean, it doesn't come up that often, but every once in a while, there are Lego products that will, or there will be little tidbits from other sources who have interviewed Lego or have been to the factory, and they have a very good production. They are like very small percentage of products are malfunctioning, are the kind that something goes wrong in production, misprinted, discolored, what have you. And the thing about how they market themselves, it's like, we're big boys, but we could charge big bucks. How are you able to adapt? How are you able to get to everybody if you're going to charge the big bucks? Lego is the kind of thing that people trust in all different facets. You have people who grew up with it. It's always been a fun building toy. And then you have people who, play with it as just the toy itself. Half of the experience of building a Lego set is the building, putting these pieces together, getting to learn new techniques, or just seeing the different shapes of pieces, the colors of pieces, following the instructions. Very good, very systematic. And for younger kids, is very helpful for following a process. They do like a little encouragement. They do like a step-by-step thing. And then getting into things on their own once they see the potential there. But when it comes to after that, you got, a model built, whether it's a building, a car, whatever, and you get to play with it. It's got to have some kind of features to it. Some more gimmicky than others. You don't have to throw a gimmick in every single Lego set. You can still have a camper van and you just pull the side open, put minifigures in there, take out accessories, pull the top off of it, and, rearrange people. Sometimes you could throw in a little small build, like if we're going to the example of a camper van, it could be like a surfboard, bicycle, maybe a campfire, a little bench to sit them at, like a destination or something that they can do along with their camping experience. Doesn't have to be a full out, play set until you get to a couple other ones. But then you also have the price tag. And for a lot of people, at least for the consumers, for a lot of us fans, the way we've understood the price tag is roughly 10 cents per piece. If you're buying a set that has 100 pieces, you would expect to pay around $10 US, or your equivalent in any other currency. And that sometimes works. There are some price currencies that get skewed from that. Doesn't work across the board every single time. And it's usually just an optimal measure. It's not perfect. I think there are some strings that are pulled back and forth as to how something is priced. And we know that not every single product is super cheap and not every single product is super expensive. What you need to have for a standard Lego wave is the span of several sets that cover a topic, an idea, a concept. In this example, we're just going with camping because why not? I built the Lego Creator app by Cabin recently, so that's why it's on my brain. It's on my mind. When you have a whole bunch of sets, they're all camping themed. Okay, you got a small set. Let's say it's a buggy or a picnic table or part of a hike. You got a larger set that could have a camper van. You've got a set larger than that. Maybe it's a campground. Maybe you have a little office for like a ranger. You could have a people parts pack where it's like a whole bunch of minifigures and they're all doing tiny activities in between each other. And then you have one or two sets that are usually considered the flagship. That's the one that gets the most promotion out of it. Lego will often do this with a wave or a particular theme, that they're going to advertise the biggest, the most potential that you can create for that aesthetic, for that range of products. That's like, there's so many pieces in this thing. It's got a whole lot of features with those pieces. It's got a bunch of minifigures you can use around, and some of the minifigures are more exclusive the further up the totem pole that you get. So that makes it more draw that way, where it's like, oh, these are fun figures. When Lego creates an original theme, they have to play it across the board. They have to have the main characters available at just about every step of the way, because those are characters you want your audience to identify with. Those are the kinds that, oh, I know Jack and Parker are from Hidden Side, and they're in every set, and they have a little bit of variance on their expressions or their outfits or their headgear, but you still have a figure. You still can play with that story and what the Hidden Side theme is about, for example. Or even the recent Monkey Kid sets, which is a barrier for entry, mind you, of $35 US. Why? I'm not entirely sure why, but I think there's something that this kind of leads into. Not only is Lego trying to sell a building toy, a set with a whole bunch of pieces in it, they're also selling another product with it. And a lot of times, Lego is, even in their the most independent themes, in-house, whatever, they are still working with some other property, some other media to not only get the word out there, but maybe build upon, pun intended, the original item. So like Ninjago releasing in 2011, it had a TV show. Or Monkey Kid also has a TV show. Lego Friends, I don't know if they have TV shows or if they're just webisodes. Bionicle had webisodes, but they also had books. But there's usually like, you pay big for the set, but you don't pay at all, or, nominally or indirectly pay through another service. Like Hidden Side as an app. I mean, you're probably, if you have a cell phone, if you have a smartphone, you're probably, paying for a phone bill. You're not paying for the app directly, but you still need that for something else. Hidden Side, I really like the sets, and I think they work very well as they are. I haven't used the app that much. It's a year in of Hidden Side, and I've used the app maybe once or twice in the Lego store because they had an in-store event, and not much with the sets themselves. Although I have heard from other people who have. I would like to get into it myself at some point before the app is discontinued. Hopefully not soon. And the thing is, the app is free. You don't pay anything for that. Lego Fusion, the app was free, or really any of the apps, because there was multiple ones. They had the Resort Designer, Create and Race, Battle Tower, and Town Master, the 4 Lego Fusion sets. But those Fusion sets were a Toys R Us exclusive or Lego Shop at Home exclusive. And I think the price originally was $35 in the United States, if I remember correctly. I only got 2 of them, and I think only one of them at launch, the Town Master set. But when you look at what's in the box, does it look like $35 worth of stuff? It's mostly 1x1s, modified 1x1s, 1x2s, or 1 by anything, really, whether or not standard or modified. You got some plates, bricks, a couple of window pieces here and there, maybe doors, maybe some slopes. Not really a building experience. Lego Fusion kind of fell off the map real quick because people recognized there's not much to do here. Most of the building and app experience that Lego has been trying to do for several years to try to tie those two media together of a toy and an app. Several of those instances are weighing in one way or the other, where it's I get a building experience and the app can enhance it, like Hidden Side, or I have a building experience with mostly building it for the app's purpose. You know, you can't really play on Lego Fusion. I'm hearing the Office theme in the other room. I don't know if anyone else is. Hopefully not. But getting back on track. The app experience kind of comes first with Lego Fusion, Lego Dimensions, Life of George, probably another example or two out there, I'm sure. And then you have bricks that supplement that, even though the one you're paying for are the bricks and the app is free. What I'm trying to get at is Lego sometimes gears themselves because of that media inclusion, that it's not just a building toy. It's a building toy and something else. And not that people can't enjoy that on its own. You know, like Hidden Side had a whole lot of episodes on YouTube and other social media, I believe. I think, I don't know the distribution of Monkey Kid episodes. I haven't really seen a lot of services that offer them, unfortunately. I've only seen like one or two of the episodes, I think, through the Lego website. Something like that. And then, but it's like, I don't know how that media part works, of like how viewers interpret into, you know, profit. But it's kind of like the Lego sets are making up for the show or the app, whatever the case may be. So the barrier for entry makes it a little bit higher. As Mr. Hinklejaws has said previously, if people see a price and they keep paying at that threshold, they're going to keep charging it. And that's fair. And that totally makes sense. It's like a science experiment. It's like, okay, this is drawing people in. So it's okay if we keep pricing it that way, because people are willing to buy that. People are willing to spend for that. I'm trying to think. But the problem that I have with Monkey Kid, summer city themes, that's very specific, but still happens for years and years. And a few other independent properties from Lego. And I say this more than the licensed ones, because licenses, okay, yeah, you do have to pay for having it as an official merchandise, official product based on Star Wars, Jurassic World, what have you. Lego Mario. There is a higher threshold for Lego Mario, kind of in that same way, because you're paying the $60 for the starter set. There's not a lot of pieces to it, but there are brand new molds. There are printed pieces. There are no stickers in any of the Mario sets. I know, I have them. I've tried them. And the $60 starter set is for the technology, because you have something that is adapting to different colors, that has like a little built-in, you know, reader, and also playing sounds with it. And it's got a gyroscopic feature. There's technology involved with it. This is something that's very common with other things such as Mindstorms. And it costs more money for that technology to exist and to function. Although you will have to buy batteries separately. I don't remember if they put that on the box, though. That's kind of an important detail. Requires 2 AAA batteries. But even so, that also adapts into an app. There's a Lego Super Mario app in order to get across, you know, what it's like building the sets. You have the instructions in the app, but the app is free. All right, that softens the blow. That's like buying a college textbook, and it includes a digital code to use it online, like from your computer or a tablet. You're still owning a physical product that could work on its own. But the fact that he gave you another thing for free makes it a little more interesting, I guess. Can work with people that different way. But for getting back to the Lego City stuff, the summer waves, they always have a weird range of products. There's a poly bag every so often, or a Lego store exclusive. Not like gift with purchase exclusive. I mean like those little minifig packs. Um, they'll do one of those things, maybe. Not every single time. They'll have a Lego set that's not usually that cheap. I'm trying to think. Jungle Wave was probably the last one. No. Well, they didn't have it with Divers. They did, but it's like a juniors version. But then before that, Space, there was a $10, $15 US product like that. Okay, fine. Then there was Jungle. I remember sometime before that. They had a starter set. Okay, fine, sure. But then the price jumps. It doesn't necessarily go like a lot of other themes where there's a fair range between $10 to $20 between products. And like a fair stepping stone kind of thing going upwards. You can tell there's more added in here. There's more functions because it's a more dense product. There's more things to play with, figures to play with. You know, it could be animal figures and things like that. When you get to the flagships, they might change a little bit more in course. They might add a larger piece to it, but not every time. And usually the progression for Summer Wave City sets, they make a handful of them, keep it very dense compared to the police and fire sets that we see every year and spread across multiple waves throughout an entire year. But then the fact that there are only so few of them, they're very widely ranged. The diver sets for this year, I would have loved if there was more in between. Even if it was another submarine, or even if there was just more environment. Like, how does that work? There's very few. If you look across all the diver sets from the Lego City Wave this summer, they don't have a lot to actually explore. Majority of the pieces are used for the ships, for the submarines, and you know they do look good, but you don't actually get an environment to explore with it. Same thing with Jungle, except that Jungle did it a little bit better. They actually had lush forests. They had shipwrecks or plane crashes. I mean, they had other things you can go through, and they had play features to go with them to make them more treacherous. Divers, they gave you maybe half a ship in the biggest set. And everything in between, everything underneath that, if there's something there, it's very small. It's like the kind that you would find in like the underwater robot, where it's like a couple of plates stacked on top of each other with a rock. How much of a play experience are you getting out of that? And sure, you could probably use other pieces from your collection, but if you're brand new to Lego, you're just starting out with it, you didn't already have a whole lot, how do you play with it? Because you just have a ship. You don't have a lot to explore with that ship in the box without using any other materials from any other brand. That's not a lot to offer. So maybe it's like a balance between things. Maybe it's about, Lego has shifted gears over the past 20 years of themes that have opposing forces. Classic Space, Futuron, Blacktron, that's it. Space Police, generally a lot of those. Mtron, they were all kind of existing around the same time, but they had a different weird way of marketing. It was like, let's just put out a whole bunch of Blacktron sets, and then sometime later, let's just put out a whole bunch of Mtron sets. And they do relate to each other, and they do show them in the catalogs interacting with each other or having little write-ups in the stories or ManiAsk magazines, whatever. But they're not packaged together that often. Space Police is probably the closest one around that time that would have done so. They have the Blacktron figures as criminals in space, and they are actually included in some of those sets as prisoners. Castle did something very similar. It's like a little bit of crossover between them, but they still kind of live on their own. It's almost like the submarine stuff for nowadays. It's like, what else am I supposed to play with here? because I'm only working with one dominant thing in the entire set. I do like having multiple things to play with in a given set. The Hidden Side set, it's like Shrimp Boat Shipwreck or something like that. I forget the exact name of it. Apologies. But it's a $30 set. It's one of my favorite Lego sets of all time. And that only came out last year. And I love this set because it brings me into the mind of a child who could play with this as the box itself and get a lot of mileage out of it. You have a boat. You have 2 people that can operate the boat. You have enough room on the deck of the boat to fit them in different spots, move accessories around, have someone pilot, have someone fishing, what have you. You have 2 other minifigures, Jack and Parker, like I said, just in about every set. Maybe, I think 1 or 2 of the sets, they only include one of them, but you still get a main character nonetheless. You have, they have a boat, and they have, there's a crocodile as a little danger, and then you have a shipwreck, little island sort of thing. That island has several play features onto it, like for the ghostly nature of the theme, can add that in there. And then you have the fact that you can take the ship apart and separate it to those parts of the island. And you also have the shrimp boat captain that can be transformed, possessed by a ghost, whatever. You could probably even do it with the first mate or whatever you want to call the other guy, the other fisherman. Perfectly fine. It could really work for either of them or any other minifigures that you have. Inside of that one set, I've explained several different features, several different things you can play with all at the same time. And with that, I see a lot of possibilities. Like when I started playing with it, I basically had it with, I actually do try to play with the set to get a real feel for it. Like I didn't just put this thing together and just say, let me shove it off and try something else. I tried to play with it. And I could see, even without seeing the Hidden Side webisodes, I can develop a story here. As they call it, conflict in a box. Lego may not necessarily called it that. I remember hearing that through Nick on Planet Ripple, maybe a few other sources. But that's generally the vibe. Conflict in a box. You have several things that can interact with each other, usually opposing forces. And because of that, it creates story, it creates character, it creates a play experience. Can't really make a story out of something that all gets along. There's usually has to be some sort of conflict, something that happens to work against it. A problem that needs to be solved. That is a basic storytelling method. And with that set in particular, you can, like what I did, I had the captains going fine. I'm, collecting shrimp for the shrimp shack, and the captain goes overboard, and then the ship, crashes into the island. Jack and Parker, they go investigate it. They navigate around an alligator, and they find out the possessed nature of that area, of the seas being rough, and the captain was possessed. Hence why he fell off the boat. Lost control, that kind of thing. That could easily be tweaked in different ways, create a little different experience in just one set. And the more sets you put together, the more stories you can get out of it. That's great. And that could even work with licensed themes. I used to do that with, I think, Star Wars, where I'd put different sets together, try to create story out of that. Even if they weren't related to the movies or books or any other media already existing. But just to have my own fun with it. Like, I made Boba Fett the new Darth Vader after episode 6. Why not? The thing about imagination and having a toy or product that is supposed to foster creativity and imagination, you have to have enough pieces to work with. You don't build a car with just one screwdriver. You need a lot of tools and a lot of parts to put that together. And maybe you don't have to make it as a car. You can make it into something else. But for Lego, yeah, that's what we're getting at. If you only have one thing going on, you won't get a lot out of it. And maybe it's supposed to be for a certain purpose, like a display piece, fine. But if it's very flat, one object, that's not going to do a lot. Some examples that could go against that, a house model. A house model has a lot of divided areas. So it isn't just one thing. You could have all those little areas pulled together and make it more than just one big building. You can have different rooms. The haunted house from the creator, is a creator expert, 18 plus, whatever you want to call it, line. It has a couple of different rooms that you can explore. You don't just go up and down the tower. That's the main function, but you could still explore each of those different areas. And I like that there's just enough detail going on with that set that you could create it in different ways. It could be an amusement park attraction, and all that stuff is just props and just making it look spooky. The skeleton is just a Fabergé. It's just a model, not an actual figure. You also have the possibility it is a former manor turned amusement park ride. I believe the instructions give enough flavor text to help with that. And in the instructions throughout the haunted house set, Manor von Baron, they give you enough flavor text, as I call it, because it adds a little bit more of what you're building and what you're doing with it, and a suggestion of how you can play with it. It gives you enough going on there that you could take that and run with it, or just make up your own thing. No problem there. But at least it can give you a start. It can give you an explanation and continue from there into something greater. Like they offer about there being twins, and they both wear the same top hat, and they have the same outfits, and they have the same glasses and things like that. There's a third figure in the set, a skeleton, that also wears a top hat. Could he be a third twin? No one may ever know. The instructions offer up different possibilities. They ask questions so that the reader or whoever is building it can try to answer them on their own. And you need those kinds of questions in order to get yourself thinking, get yourself moving, and get yourself actually absorbed into what you're doing. I should know this because I've been with many STEM programs, and it's important to ask questions for the audience, the class, in order to get them involved. And I'm not saying it has to just be with an 18 plus set. I'm just saying that's one of many examples of how you can get into something. One thing that I feel like Lego doesn't always do, especially when it comes to that price point threshold sort of thing, like what's the barrier for entry? It should be relatively low. You should have a Lego set, a starter set, if you may, that can give you the flavor and the rough idea of the entire wave of a theme before you spend a lot of money. I mean, the lowest Monkey Kid set is $35. I'm going to emphasize that again because I'm only somewhat familiar with Journey to the West from an abbreviated summary of it and a few other people who have talked about it. I've watched the Nick on Planet Ripple video explaining a couple of details here and there about each of the sets, how it relates all together for this newer story based on a classic from, folklore. But the thing about it is, even if you're not familiar with the folklore, what would make you interested in the sets? Maybe a couple characters, maybe a bit of the color scheme, but are you really going to just throw $35 out there just, as an experiment? It's a little bit tricky. And maybe there could be one of the bigger sets that is more appealing, and that would be your first. There's nothing wrong with that. That's consumerism. But if you just wanted a little flavor, a little taste of how, a sample, if you may, of how it's going, the $35 set, I feel like might be just enough. I mean, I haven't built it yet, but I would imagine just from looking at it, that should give you enough going on and should be a good play experience on its own right, because you have conflict in a box, as I mentioned before. You have multiple models, so each one can move in its own way, or if played with multiple people, can be played together. You know, one side, on the other side, two different people playing. And then you have, you know, different features on each of them. From what I remember in Nick's video, it does have different formations on the good guy's side. On the bad guy's side, it's, you know, two little models that could, you know, interact different ways, you know, projectiles or ramp or something like that. It seems like just enough, but maybe there needs to be something a little lower than that, like a battle pack. And I do like starter sets and battle packs as a barrier for entry. A lot of LEGO themes as a kid growing up into my teen years, I remember, right around teenage, a bunch of LEGO sets and LEGO themes, I would go into, you know, just a smaller model, but still try to get the feel of it. And they were good. They had a good idea going. Ninjago, 2011, I was 16 years old. And I bought the Sensei Wu spinner, the Nia spinner, and Cole's training dojo or something like that. While it's not a lot, and that's $20, and I probably could have bought another set that would, you know, encompass things together better. I understood Nia, she wasn't that much available outside of the spinner. This is kind of the same thing that happened with Lloyd ZX in the next year, where it's like, oh, you got the really expensive set, high threshold, you know, to get that figure specifically as a main character, even, but you know, at the time, kind of a side character. But there's also a smaller set with a different mechanic going on to try it out, and I did want to try out the spinners. It seemed fun, and I still like them. I also got Sensei Wu. Again, a figure that's usually in a higher set, but now he's in a $10 spinner. Different outfit, that's fine. It actually looks good. I'm okay with it. And then you have Cole's training dojo, where it's enough to get, you know, one of the regular ninjas, Cole, a couple accessories because you have different weapons that can be used, and a small area to play in, where, you know, weapons rack is available. You have a target to, you know, try to knock it over, use it with different figures, you know. And that wasn't even that much, but it would still give me an idea of like, okay, I see how they're trying to build these, and these are fun figures and still has room for, you know, adding more onto them. Pharaoh's Quest, I remember getting the Scarab Beetle attack. It gave you Jack Rains, it gave you a campsite, and it gave you the Scarab Beetle. Now, the Pharaoh's Quest theme was kind of like Atlantis, in which you would have minifigures that are fighting these guardian creatures. They're designed to look like animals, but they could be statues that just come to life, sort of thing. They are guarding treasure. The Scarab Beetle attack set covers the basics on that. Every one of those sets from Pharaoh's Quest, I know because I have them all, every one of those sets has that same premise at minimum. The one thing I could say changing from it that the Scarab Beetle attack doesn't have, it doesn't have a vehicle for Jack. But that's not really that bad. It was like a $7, $8 set when it came out, something like that, 2011. But still gave me enough flavor. There was a couple accessories that were added onto it. So that way I could still play with it and still try different things and still get the aesthetic of what the theme is going for. And then look into the larger sets. Mars Mission. Here's an example where it doesn't work out. I don't remember when Mars Mission came out. 2007, 2006. So I would have been about 11, 12, somewhere like that, years old. When that theme came out, the first set that I got was the Astro Fighter. And it's basically a spaceship. That's it. It's got an astronaut. It's got a spaceship. The wings can move a little bit up and down if you want to angle them. You got a cannon that can move a little bit up and down, but it doesn't fire. And you got an alien. Wow. Not really helpful on the entry. I mean, you get an alien, fine. Gives you a figure that is commonplace for a lot of these sets and is massable. Even the Astro Fighters themselves, they show in the instructions like, oh, there's a whole fleet of them, they can fly across the Mars landscape. But as a play experience, you just have one big ship. Tiny alien. I wonder who's going to win. Especially the alien that can't move its legs independently, or its arms independently, or its head. If you don't like mini dolls and their lack of movement, try a Mars Mission alien. It's just, he sits and he stands. That's about it. Or he just bends over and haphazardly picks up a crystal. There's not even a platform, not a little thing to try. UFO abduction from Alien Conquest, again around 2011, or maybe 2012. I forget which. But UFO abduction wasn't the first set that I got. But even on that one, where it's very weighted, it's more about the UFO spaceship than any other figures or items in the set, you can still play with it. You can still have a soldier set up with a little barricade and a flick fire missile to try something. That's all I'm asking for. Even if, some things may be dinky, but that's where you get into, building design. That's where you try to add just enough pieces where it could almost be on its own a poly bag, but still make it as part of a larger set so that's a better value. Maybe you could have it as a poly bag. I don't know. I remember Nick on Planet Ripple talking about that recently with Monkey Kid, where I'm trying to find the set. Live searching on the YouTubes. So he got it was a Monkey Kid set from the second wave that has speeder for Sandy. It also comes with a spider creature, a small cave, $60 set, and 300 something pieces. I mean, granted, there are some covetable figures in there. I do understand that bigger figures are going to cost more, but that does not. If you gave me the rest of the set without looking at the figures, just the models that are being built, I'd say 40 at most, 30 probably best. And I didn't even look at the part count on that set before I looked at the price. I was like, wow. I mean, at that rate, you might as well get another Monkey Kid set, maybe even one from the first wave. So you're not even making it feel like a progression. It's like, I'm going to backtrack to the first wave to get something that's a better value around the same price point. But and I say that because I was looking into that set thinking, oh, is there a cheaper way to get every one of these figures from the Lego sets without using Bricklink? Sandy Bricks, I did see you come in, and welcome, and I do appreciate the questions. I will add a little bit more to those a little bit. Party Frog, good to see you here. The good viewers are here to provide a laugh track. It might be. I'm literally doing this live just in order to test out the microphone. But yeah, the topic itself kind of dragging a little bit. Yes, going point to point. It's hard to follow what you're talking when your viewers aren't involved. I see. Well, it's supposed to be Q&A as a series. There were a whole bunch of questions that I got a while ago, and I've been trying to go through one by one of answering them on different videos. Some of the videos I might even answer a couple of questions at in the same video. And that's what I'm going for. Yeah, as I mentioned, I had mentioned about it a couple months ago. This is overdue. And since I have better tech now, I thought might as well try it with that in this video. I could, if I use the other ones, they wouldn't be using the same microphone. This is, they were recorded before this, but I'll still get them going. The idea of it is supposed to be, I'm not answering all the questions in one video. I want to keep it as a running thing so that get a couple things, questions, answers every once in a while. Okay, so getting back to my point of the $60 set. Nick on Planet Ripple, who is very much interested in Monkey Kid, who had done a big review of the first wave of sets. He only took a couple of components from that $60 set and could make it into a $15 pack, maybe even $20. He says here, he's showing 3 figures and like 3 builds that are only a handful of pieces for each build too. A $15 set, this would be a steal, maybe even 20. You get a whole scene. It just goes back to what I said in the review. Break these up into smaller, more plentiful, and affordable sets. That's the thing that I've understood over time when it comes to consumerism. You do have to appease the low common denominator. You have to have something that's just, okay, you get a little flavor of it, and that's fine. A polybag doesn't always offer that, and not every theme has a polybag. So you're not really going to get a lot out of that particularly. You could still have a $10 set, $15 set, maybe a $20 set. Superheroes used to be really good with that. It would give you like 3 figures for $20, all, nicely decked out based on either Marvel or DC, and maybe 1 vehicle, 2 vehicles, depending on the set. And that's something to play with. 2 examples that are good here: Ant-Man Final Battle and Ant-Man in the Quantum Realm, or something to that effect. They're based on each of the Ant-Man films for Marvel. The first one, with Ant-Man Final Battle, 3 figures. You get a giant ant. You get a brick-built Lego pieces, as if it's giant because figures shrunk. Very cute. And the bricks can actually launch another piece. The ant can be ridden. And one of the minifigures, I believe, Yellow Jacket, yes, had a couple of launchers on him. It's like a jetpack sort of thing, but you could also use them to actually, fire. That can work. There's enough there for a little bit on each of those figures. And there's enough building that's like, okay, I'm not just putting one thing together. I can actually use all 3 of these with, make a scene out of it. Even if it's just one set for that one film. Cut to Ant-Man and the Wasp. I haven't reviewed it yet on the channel, but this one basically is, I haven't seen the movie, but even without seeing the movie, it feels a bit lackluster for the set itself. I don't know how much more is involved with it or what could be added to it. Again, I don't have the context of the movie to work with. You get 3 figures and 1 vehicle, maybe 1 or 2 accessories, and these little launcher things for one of the figures. Okay. You don't have a second build, and the build that you do have is really only made to fit 1 figure. It's like this large machine thing. It's got a lot of nice building techniques to it, I'll give it that. But how much more are you going to play with it just as the one set? How much are you actually going to use it? It almost feels like the figures are a throw-in. That they're not, like, they are relevant, but they're not something that you can use with the model as much. And superheroes are usually hard for adapting into Lego. People love minifigures. Let's get that straight. But Lego figures and action figures are completely different. And to carry that same play experience is almost impossible. A Lego figure has very stiff animation, very few articulated points, and only a handful of details. I mean, most of it printed. It's not even textured. It's not actually like, you can tell there are layers to it. And because of that, it makes it difficult to play with them on their own. You literally move them around. You know, I can move this SD card around with almost the same certainty. You could use it for posing. That's fine. Like, get a couple things out of it, but probably not as dynamic as an action figure, and probably not as varied. They're mostly working from the same, structure, only having a handful of things changing at a time. So to make up for that, Lego will make a model or a feature into a model that can make it seem more useful. The super jumper, used in a lot of superhero sets, was very much dismissed by the community because it would actually tarnish the back legs of any figure using it if repeated enough in usage. And also the fact that it's a really flimsy piece of plastic that could break. So there's that. But the idea of it is that it's a little bendable plastic. You sit the figure on top of it, it sits in place, and you just flick it around like those little frog toys. I forget exactly what they're called. No, they're not always frogs, but that's the first one I think of. It's like a little tab. You press it down, builds up some energy. Boing. There's no string attached, but just the fact of bendable plastic makes it flip. And then they've done that more recently, almost the same concept, but now applying it to minifigure hands with, I think they're called action blasters. A little thing that clips on to a minifigure hand. You press on the side of it just to, again, bend the plastic as if it was going to be separated. And then it fires in a direction. And it may not be the direction you want, but trying to create a blasting effect. And there's something there for it, but again, these are all to supplement the fact that a Lego minifigure inherently does not offer it. And, they're not going to have it built into a hand the way they would for an action figure, or they don't have enough articulation for the figure to make it more palatable. The same thing happened with Marvel, especially with, I want to say over the past year. Yeah, this year they had a bunch of mechs built for different figures. They have the Thanos mech, they have an Iron Man mech, they have a Spider-Man mech, a couple other ones. And these are basically emphasizing on what the figure can do, the abilities of that character. To have a Thanos minifigure with a fully decked out Infinity Gauntlet, they haven't really been able to do that. It's so small, and there's only so much you can add to it. The closest they've done is like a little glove that fits over the minifigure hand. Or they could just build up a large mech that could have more articulated fingers. That you get to see each of the gems and be able to move the hand separate from the rest of the arm. Basically apply that to the other superheroes that I mentioned. Spider-Man can hold a web, but can he fire a web? Not always. Same thing happens with Iron Man. So I feel like it's minifigures are a thing that's popular with Lego. They're doing great. They're always fun to have and fun to see new ways that they're used. But you only have a certain amount of ways that they're used until they make a brand new mold. Oh, he's got a snake tail now. Oh, it looks different, but can it move different? No. Oh, he has a different head. Actually, I realize the basic minifigure might be the most articulated, because a lot of the other features, while they are shaped nicer, to whatever character they're adapting to, often limit how it moves. Star Wars, a lot of good figures of aliens that have a large headpiece put onto the body, no neck. No way of tilting it left or right. You just have to move the figure. But yeah, getting back to the point of Lego marketing, there is a threshold that Lego products tend to reach before you get to really enjoy them. And it's a shame that there aren't a lot in a smaller range that can supply the same experience or very similar experience or even the aesthetic of what the line is going for. The other thing I find that's also wrong, and I'm just going to touch upon this briefly and then we'll head out. I do go on a tangent, that is true. So the other thing I would say here is that Lego does a lot of marketing, but also a lot of product releases. You blink and there is a new Lego product either coming out soon or that's been teased or that is already on the shelf. Even if it didn't already have a big buildup, like, ooh, we're doing something with Lego and Mario. We'll see what it's like. Or, ooh, we're doing something with Lego and Fast and the Furious. And wait on that on their marketing, social media, whatever. None of the products really get a lot of time in the sunshine, do they? It almost feels like the production line itself. Here it is, go. Here it is, go. Throughout a given product year, Lego puts out so many things in so many themes that really puts a lot on the consumer. If they like Lego, they better like a certain kind of Lego because there's a lot to choose from. I mean, that should be a compliment, right? Like, okay, well, not everything is going to suit everyone, so there's a lot to choose from. And some people get into Lego because of the variety, Oh, they make a Lego Friends set. That's awesome. Where, they might have not otherwise. Oh, they got Lego Overwatch. All right. But for those who actually do like the fact that it's a building experience and they do like seeing, oh, they're getting this building with a new thing. How does that work? Because you could be standing in front of the Lego aisle for a while before picking out a product. If you like a whole bunch of different things. If you're not stingy and you're already like, okay, what can I build? And you can tell a whole bunch of things look good, even if they're in the same price range, gives you a lot of options. And this is something that does happen, at least it happens with me a lot. But it does happen with other people, regardless of if it's shopping or a menu at a restaurant. Look at any diner. There are dozens upon dozens of options. It's usually a big folder of menu items to choose from. Are you really going to choose something and enjoy the choice? Or like, oh, yeah, they have that. Unless you know what you're going in for, it's very hard to do so. That is actually a phenomenon that does happen with people where they are given too many choices and they have regret as they are choosing something. So it could go with one, I choose something, but I could have chosen that, or that, or that. The fact that there are so many other things out there and you almost doubt your choice because maybe something else could have been just as appealing. 2, they choose nothing at all. I'm overwhelmed by how much I'm seeing in front of me. I can't break down what's unique about them and what would appeal to me. Therefore, I choose nothing. Imagine it like this. Let's say instead of, I don't even know how many Lego sets for Star Wars come out every wave. But let's say that in a given year, Lego puts out, 5, 6 Star Wars sets in the spring or like late winter, spring. And then they put out maybe another 5 or 6 midsummer, into August. And then another wave right before Christmas time, before the holiday season. But all in between there, they're adding in a couple other things, like a UCS model, Ultimate Collector's Series model. They could be adding in a bonus model like they did recently with the, what's it called, Duel on Bespin. It was like a little, shop and home exclusive, roughly $40. I did not get it. And it was online only. And to celebrate or commemorate the 40th? I'm not sure. Might have been 40th. 40th anniversary, of The Empire Strikes Back. And then you've got a couple other models that are thrown in there, again, sporadically. How are you going to choose? How are you going to decide? I did say before, yes, it is good to have several sets with different price ranges. Who's to say they can't be throughout the entire calendar year? You could have a large set in the beginning of the year and then break it down to a smaller set later, and then maybe a medium set somewhere in between. When it comes to a lot of products, when it first comes out, it could be a little expensive. But if people are passionate about it, if people want to see more about it, they could pick it up. They could save up for it. But good things come to those who wait, as they say. And people who are patient and waiting out, seeing if it will drop a little bit over time, they could get a similar thing or something with a similar thing that might appeal to them at a cheaper price. LEGO does this on occasion with the minifigures distributed across different sets. I would say especially for licenses, there are times where they'll have a really high price, flagship set with a covetable minifigure or two. But they might release a smaller set later in the same year or the next year, same figure or very similar one, maybe the same character, maybe the little variant, whatever, at a lower price. It took me a while to get Kylo Ren as a minifigure because he was usually in a higher price set when he came out in The Force Awakens. So I waited a couple of years down the line and I got him in a $20 set. And I think even after that, it was in a $10 set. So, there's no reason for me to get the entire shuttle or other landscapes. I personally wasn't into those. But he is a main character. He is still important for the story. And even if he's not with a cape, and even if he's not with a mask, he's still Kylo Ren. You still understand what the figure is. It's not like he had a complete change or something throughout the films, as far as appearance goes. Except for maybe the mask having reddish scars. Anywho, the idea is that I can still enjoy that. I can still enjoy that aspect of something LEGO, but I just wait longer and it comes out in a less expensive way, in something that I could still enjoy as that play experience or that figure. The $20 that I picked up was basically a miniature kind of vignette of the battle in the snow on Starkiller Base. All right, cool, no problem. It covers covers it pretty well, and I think it might have even been the second time I got Rey. So the first one being Rey's Speeder. It was about $15, $20 set, something like that. I forget exactly what I paid for it, but I know I paid under retail. And that could work in its own way. Samson7180, nice to see you here. Welcome to the stream. Sadly for me, the stores where I buy LEGO are 30% full. Well, that could, let's see. Yeah, that's more of a retailer thing that I don't know how much LEGO can control, how much is on the shelf. I mean, they'll supply whatever products that they want to put on the shelf, but some areas may just go through them a little bit faster. So yeah, as far as like the distribution of LEGO stuff, even you probably could reduce even each wave, maybe like 2-3 sets. So that way you get an idea of, here's what a high-end up product a more advanced build in a Lego theme could be, and here's one for the starter. So that way people can be adapted to it, be able to get into it. And do that for just about every Lego theme that they have running currently. You could add that for Classic, City, Star Wars, Jurassic World, Creator. I don't know if I want to count Hidden Side and Monkey Kid, but here we are. Might as well. It feels like the Monkey Kid sets were very close in waves too. I would have liked if it was even season-wise, that they were spread out a little bit further. So that way, again, each set can be appreciated and valued. Instead of it just being like, okay, I built it and move on. I'd rather, actually play with it. Like I said in the beginning here, building is only half the experience. There is also the finished product, the moving it around, the figures you can add, moving back and forth with it, how it's set up with the other figures. Even if you're not into playing with it as a toy, you are still moving it around and getting to appreciate the finished item and how it compares to other, items surrounding it. As long as there are other items surrounding it. The Monkey Kid mech, it's like you get big, tall mech and 3 figures. Something like that. Which, again, conflict in a box doesn't really work there. A couple sets it doesn't, but... And it's kind of difficult to even make it work with another set. But there's also, we don't want to compromise on that. Parts-wise, I don't know. I've never... well, first of all, I don't know if I've really watched anime. I will save some of these questions for some time later. I've already dragged on for this a little bit too long and literally off the cuff. Having some footnotes in my head, but maybe embellished. I've watched a little bit of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, but not enough to fully understand the story. I've watched a little bit of One Piece. I want to say, I don't know if Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh count. Some people say that it does, but some people don't. I don't think Avatar: The Last Airbender counts as like Western anime. I've heard that tossed around before, but I am not sure. I have watched Space Dandy. I think that counts as anime, right? Not sure. Please. Something over here. I'll answer a few other questions here while I'm at it, since we already had a long one. But other questions can also be submitted sometime later. I'll answer those. Samson7180. Anything you're working on right now? As far as building, I don't have a lot that I'm working on since I'm still transitioning. I have been working on a Bionicle mock. It's another childhood mock recreated. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I won't get into too many details about it right now, but you heard it here first. It's nearly done. And I'm really excited for it. The one thing that's really holding me back are a couple of pieces that I just have misplaced in a bin. I know I tried looking through 1 or 2 bins, didn't turn out to be in there. I think it's in one of the other ones that kind of makes a lot of sense now. And even the fact that there was a picture. I did have like a Polaroid picture of the original model. I want to find that. I would really enjoy finding that, because then it gives me a real comparison of what it was like back then, what I'm doing with it now. I roughly tried to base it on my memory of how it was built. But yeah, it's not really complex for a Bionicle mock, but it really is just like trying to remember how I built it as a kid and then adapting from there. I had done that before previously. You know what? I will. Yeah, let's throw the couple of other questions in here. What's your ultimate goal with Lego? I would say, to always be building more, to learn the pieces, try to build more things of my own. Like, I do like the sets. Don't get me wrong. They're fantastic on their own. but I don't need to put every single one of them on a shelf. I don't need to collect every single set either. But I still want to learn enough from building them style-wise or technique-wise to get to do that more on my own. I mean, one of the bigger hurdles I have to come over is Mindstorms and Technic. They're very advanced builds. They're very sophisticated. They have more machinery operation. And that's something that I would love to get more into. But that's like its own language. It's like a different, because of the different building system to standard, to system, even to Duplo. I mean, of course, Duplo, but like the way Duplo and system work, it's very similar. It's just a size difference and complexity a little bit. But, okay. What would you say is the worst selling Lego set? An example I saw at Walmart, a lot of the Lego Dimensions starter kit sets. Okay, fair point. And this is kind of another thing. Lego Dimensions was, again, one of those experimental things. I always do like trying the experimental stuff from Lego. But it is a high price point. $100 is a lot to ask for. But in this way, it's that thing I talked about earlier where I say it's a media item first and then a Lego set secondary, because you're buying a $60 game, AAA title of a Lego game, roughly around $60. And then the $40 after that is supposed to be for new technology, because you have the toy pad that's connecting to your Xbox, PlayStation, Wii U, whatever the device is, whatever the console you're playing on. You have the UFC chips, or NFC, not UFC, NFC chips, near field communication chips, that are interacting with that toy pad. Then you have the figures, and then you have a couple builds. It's not intended to be a Lego toy. It is a physical representation of what's in the video game. Is that $40 worth of stuff? Initially, I don't know. And I'm the one who bought the bullet. I got that thing when it came out. But just like Lego Super Mario, it's about the potential. This gives you all the basics of what you need, regardless of what other packs you buy. And you can't do the same functions for that same premise without buying it. If you buy another set or two, Is it the worst selling set? Probably. I mean, maybe not of all time, but in recent years, I would definitely say yes. How do I know this? Because it's appeared at Five Below for $10. Because it's appeared in many other places on discounts several times. They have re-released it several times in Targets and Walmarts with a figure to try to drive up, oh, this is actually appealing because you get a Supergirl or you get a whole nother pack included for the same price. No, it didn't sit well with a lot of people. Maybe for the handful of people like myself who are like, oh, well, I do want to collect all the Dimension stuff, but I'm not buying them all full price. No, that is very expensive. Toys to Life is a very, very expensive thing. It doesn't appeal. It doesn't seem like it at first, but you really do have to add up everything. You have to realize of how much you want to get out of it. And for a Lego game, I'd say it's even worse because a standard $60 Lego game does not only give you 3 figures to play with throughout the entire game. That's what you get in the starter set. You get minimum 3 minifigures, 3 characters you can play in the game in tandem, at any time, switching them around for their abilities, whether or not in co-op. That's not good. Even though the game itself offers that you can explore other areas, you can unlock different things, but not within the game. It's like physical DLC. You buy another pack to add it into the game physically. You could even argue the Lego Super Mario stuff is like that too, but people have actually found ways around that, especially when it comes to enemies. And for a lot of the builds, outside of a couple rounded plates, you could make them out of your own pieces or something very close to it. You just don't get the iconography of Mario, or you don't get the exact colors to it. Whatever. It is what it is. I was trying to think, there might have been another example like that of a worth selling set. I'm trying to think of one that's in bulk and stores want to get rid of them as cheaply as possible, as fast as possible. But I'm not sure. Dimensions is definitely one of them, though. All right. I have definitely gone longer than I thought I would, but I know that Mr. Hinkeldraws had a very deep question, and I am a guy who thinks deep. I tried to go at it from a little bit of different angles. I know that he had said one thing to change, one thing they have gotten wrong and how to fix it. I've touched upon at least two of them. The way that, actually maybe three, because I said the marketing, I said the structure of Lego sets, and the release dates. You know, how often they appear throughout the year. And it's actually amazing observing this over several years and thinking, I had actually thought about this for some time where I'm like, there's a lot of Lego products that come out, whether not in the retail stores or as a shop on home exclusive or, you know, only for the Lego stores, whatever the case may be. The fact that there are so many Lego products that come out all the time that are based on building. And I say that because, you know, merchandise is merchandise. You could slap Lego on any backpack anytime. But I'm not going to count that in the same way because that's not the main product. That's not the thing that they're known for. Even with things like Dots, Levi's, that's more merchandising, I would say. They are still offering a building experience, but it's very minimal. It's like a cosmetic building. It's like slapping stickers onto a Lego set. It's like, well, I don't have to use them, but I still got the model build. It's about the structure. But yeah, basically offered three different things here and ways to fix them. To try to go back through marketing. They put too many. I said that they put too many things on shelves. I guess it kind of goes with the later one. I do get lost in my own thoughts, don't I? I know. The buttons are where you need them to be for reacting or marketing. Everybody knows Lego, but they also still want to enjoy Lego instead of it being the fancy pants product. You know, the fact that it's for a larger price threshold generally, and not offering a lot for the smaller hand experiences or, you know, younger kids, different demographics. How would I fix it? Lean it into that direction. Sure, you can have a flagship set, but you should have something on the economic side, something that, you know, is regularly available that they could still enjoy and get a feel for what the toy line is, you know, whatever subset of Lego you want to identify it. Then you have I did say about pricing. I did also say about structure, the product structure. Having one item in your product that isn't like a collectible, that isn't like a display piece, because Lego does make a bunch of those. It's weird. Another good example of that, I don't know if I mentioned this before. Another good example of that, Star Wars. Generally, you buy a Star Wars set that offers one ship, just one, and a couple of figures that you can either use to pilot the ship, invade it, what have you. Where do you put those figures if they're not in the ship itself? I can think of a lot of Lego Star Wars sets over several years that have had that, where it's like, okay, where do these go? $19.99, you buy an A-Wing, and you have two figures. Only one of them can be used as a pilot, and I guess you want to count the third figure as an astromech droid? Sure. Only one figure is the pilot. The other figure is a mechanic, and then you have a droid. The mechanic actually has a place to go because he has a little depot or landing gear, what have you. And not just in 99, but several models afterwards of the same vehicle, of the same A-Wing. Now, I want to say around 2013 or so onward, if you buy a set that's specifically an A-Wing, it still has other figures with it. They just stand there. There's no other model built with it. There's no landing gear. There's no docking. There's no thing there. It says, oh, I get Han Solo and an Admiral Akbar. I mean, they're not bad, and it's still good as a full package, but what am I going to play with? How am I going to actually use this with other things? You know, unless I buy another set, literally. And I guess, yeah, there's a lot of vehicle sets that kind of work like that, but there are vehicle sets where they do lean into it. Or it's like, okay, this can actually work together. I mean, they do that a lot with Star Wars as well, where they will take minifigures from the opposite side and add them into the set. But all they have is one weapon, one blaster. Not always a thing you want to go up against with a guy that's already piloting a ship. One of the more ridiculous examples I can think of that lately, I forget exactly what it's called. It's some kind of TIE interceptor. It's not based on the movies. It's based on one of the TV shows, Resistance or Rebels or something like that. And while it is TIE associated or like Imperial associated, I think it's like an X-Imperial or something like that pilots it. The minifigures are BB-8 and Poe Dameron. They're rebels. They're on the resistance side, whatever you want to call it. And that's it. They don't have a platform to use. They don't have a turret. Even something that could be in like a battle pack, like the Mandalorian battle pack has a turret. But you can't just throw a couple more pieces into the TIE Interceptor set. It's $50 already overpriced for what pieces are offered there. It's weird. And then we talked about the distribution. We talked about how many Lego sets come out every year. I have no idea the exact number of it. I'm sure it changes. And there are so many leagues of it. But do you really have to provide that much variety to still get people involved? In fact, I forget a lot of Lego sets that come out every year by this point. I'd say roughly 2014 onward. I forget about a lot of Lego sets that come out because there's so many. It's like, I may not even be interested in some themes, and that's fair. If I don't, if I'm not into Friends, I'm not going to remember every Lego set. But sometimes they offer things that other Lego themes don't. Friends offers things that City doesn't, and vice versa. And sometimes it's about parts, sometimes it's about concepts, models. But it'd be good to know. And for the average parent that is looking for a gift for someone, I'm not saying Friends specifically, but for any of those other lines that people might be interested in, that's a lot to look through. So you're probably going to forget one that's there, or you're not going to be able to make up your mind unless you already go in saying, I want to get this one and this one only. If you want to get into something, you better already know which set you're going in for. And I would basically say, and I said before, the way I would solve it is release less sets less frequently. You're still going to make profit from it. You're still going to have appeal especially in the earlier point about the flagship and then the starter. You're still going to have appeal, and you're still going to get involved with people just by those things. And a couple, not too many sets every so often. Like I said, you blink, you turn around, there's another Lego set coming out. And there's already enough Lego Star Wars sets coming out this year. I don't need to see a UCS or a display piece. Like every month, there's something 18 plus related. Who's going for these? I have to imagine that's probably part of the reason why some Lego lines don't do as well as they should. Because they're in competition with each other. It's all Lego, but this is a different kind of Lego. And there's so many to choose from. It's kind of hard it's like they're trying to appeal to everybody at the same time. But then they just repeat that same stuff. It's like if you spread them out a bit more, then you probably get a better sense of like, okay, people like this, people don't like this. We could do this separate thing in the same style another time. Maybe. Just maybe. And it lets I know the Lego sets are very well designed. So it really lets them breathe a little bit more when there are less other things on the shelf. Where it's like, I can actually appreciate what else is here instead of just spending $30, feeling like I made a facade, and then just tear the thing apart, move on to the next thing. So there's that. I didn't address it earlier. The American flag was already here. I didn't put that up myself. But hopefully that answers the question, Kevin. I know it was a long one. I'll leave a thing down below, timestamp for that conclusion. I did a lot of elaborating and jumping from point to point, as mentioned earlier. I do realize that I do that on occasion, that I kind of dance back and forth on things because I try not to stay too. I try not to stay too one-minded. I want to still explore, like, oh, maybe there is something I didn't consider before. Maybe there's a counterpoint to what I said, and then come up with something that suits me a little better, or what seems like a better thing. But I don't want to ignore it. I don't want to ignore it initially. That's all for today. I hope everything worked out well. I mean, it does sound like people were able to hear through the microphone, so that is a good plus. I don't know how much echo was going through, if it's the same kind that I'm hearing personally through these headphones. These are pretty long, though. And the other ones I have recorded, they were back at home. And I'll just have to schedule those. So that way they go out a little bit smoother. And, well, they're not going to be using this microphone. It's going to be a while before this one comes back into play. But I at least want to try it out here. If table space worked out better, I would use it for just Jeff podcasts on the main channel, ManiAsk for Bricks. But for right now, I'm still figuring things out, especially sound-wise, seeing what other features are available here. This is something that I did not independently buy this. This was bought for a group of people. I didn't buy it for the group. They bought it as a group. I am still involved with it and have the liberty of using it outside of the main purpose. And hey, it gets me more practice with it. So nothing wrong there. Thank you all for watching. I'll talk to you later. Yep, I certainly did that thing where I left the studio. I kicked myself out of my own stream. All right, let's actually end this thing the real way. Bye-bye.